Good day, fellow adventurers. Hello, nerds. You are all the kind of weirdos that look like you read books for fun. Do you have any time for me? That's just the kind of strange I'm looking for. It's been a while. Glad to have you back. The library is open. Lounge chairs, fully reclined. Slide on those readers and get comfortable. Welcome to Dresden's Tale. This is episode 69. This is season 3, volume 3. Chapter 65 in our electrifying tale. This is high military fantasy, the kind that needs heroes. Ours is Dresden Fane, a dwarf, a warlock, shorter than Conan, but twice the talker. He's a warrior of the Stone Clan, skating across the thin ice at a feverish pace. I'm Lewis Nichols, your belly dancer and boxers, your belly dancer. Take off those specs. You don't want to see this. I'm the guy who wrote this crazy thing. A project spanning 2 decades and a whole cartload of Word documents. Thanks to YouTube, I now have a reasonable way to pass it on to you. As I write this, I'm 1 day from oblivion, starting on a new diet, trying to work my way back down to morbidly obese. I wouldn't say I have a body image problem so much as just tired of the back issues. 2 months, no carbs. Place your bets. But if I stick to it, you owe me a bunch of likes. Feel free to heap on the motivation or tell me your best fat joke. Any comment makes me feel like I'm king of YouTube. PewDiePie, here I come. Only 24 million subs to go. Alright, that's enough about me. Where's that damn dwarf? I see you standing there in the dark. Ho, he's got woman problems again. Let's see how he gets out of this one. Here in Dresden's bedroom, it's the high holy day of Samtha, Erhard's 18th, 2052 years after the fall.
Come with me to the hillside and take a stone. Come with me to the river. Throw it in. Together we will change the course of history. One people, one purpose, one fate.
Dresden? Kira reached out, but he wasn't in the bed. Instead, her hand found only bare stone and thin blankets. I'm here, he answered in a low voice. He'd tried to keep quiet as he got dressed, not wanting to wake her. I can't sleep. Not sure what time it is either. I'm sorry we fought. She sat up on the edge of the bed, grabbing him by the cuff of his sleeve. She dragged him close. Half asleep, she squeezed him. I don't want to lose you. Then quit being crazy, he thought. You're not going to lose me. On Vool, everything was upside down. They tried to make him a hero and their leader, but besieged by an endless army, there were few battles to lead and no place for heroes. There was nothing to do but train or stand watch. Dresden tried to clear his head on the way up the stairs. He figured it was just an hour or two past midnight. Not even the most devoted of Samtha's priests started to worship her high holy day at this time of the night. Yet he came out onto the roof, having to shield his eyes from the blinding light. She chased you out. Krilich was the first to see him. Dresden knew the priest of Dagonis, along with most of the warriors from the overnight shift. He was nearly always early, and many of them stayed late to flirt with Liz. She didn't. Dresden took a place under the awning. It was the darkest spot he could crawl into and still keep half an eye on the Iterian camps. But you were fighting. He really didn't want to talk about it. He didn't think he did, but if that were true, why did he come up here to expose himself to the boisterous, intrusive, and generally clamorous lot of the Night Watch? He'd even made the first real outreach of friendship to the Pterodon, telling Krilich the red boar had rats in its alley. She says she wants to... I can't even say it. What? Stick a finger up your butt? Krilich laughed. I hear the softskins are into it. Macelius, your wife sticks it to you, doesn't she? Shut it, Krell. The cat-like philosopher walked to Dresden and patted him on the shoulder. In a low voice he said, "I've given you advice many times this last month. Just remember, spit's no substitute for a bit of grease." Dresden froze at the thought. Macelius repeated the quiet statement louder. "Spit's no substitute for grease." A round of homophobic banter and innuendo ripped across the rooftop until Fairfax, their presumptive commander, got pulled back into it. As he was actually involved in a loving plural marriage with another man and a woman, the barbs lost their edge. "Give it a try, Dresden. You might like it." "It's not another man. It's a woman. I'm happy with just her. That," he stopped himself from saying, "that's how it's supposed to be. That's how I want it to be. That's all I need." "Maybe it's not all she wants it to be," one of the warriors suggested. "I don't want to talk about it. Just go back to whatever you were doing. Pretend I'm not here." "As you wish." The next round of jokes to go around the roof was all about their deferment to Dresden's command. "Yes, my lord," being the most common. It didn't take long for the gag to play out, and there was just a moment of silence. A bit of wind stirred up some bells they'd strung. The suns raged, and the dull drone of the falls went on. Brave Rock was a place of constants, endless, repetitious constants. "I remember," Macelius snapped his fingers. "All I was saying is it doesn't have to be Flapper to fulfill the prophecy. Prater's vision can only be expressed in vague text because there is too much truth to be contained in simple words." "You gotta be kidding me. This is what you were talking about? I still can't believe you fell for this guff." Dresden looked the Tagar in the eye. "You should be catapulted over the city walls just for saying that." "This is all we ever talk about. Welcome to the night shift. It's not heresy," Krillich defended Macelius. The pair were childhood friends from Anelia. "That remains to be seen. Even if it's not, it's really dumb," Dresden complained. "The prophecy says the little architect, and everyone assumes since Flapper is an engineer, it's him. They take the translation too literal. Some people realize that General Byrne is an architect of war, and that relative to the founding questers, his reputation is small." Krilach squawked at the genius of the idea. Fairfax Khan, or Corporal Khan, the aspiring cavalry leader, nodded slowly. I see. Divination and prognosticating the future was common enough, but few seers fell outside explainable boundaries. "No," Dresden resisted, throwing his hammer at someone. "You don't. This Prater person has already been executed once. His foresight didn't help him much in that, did it? He's a sham. Byrne would probably make a good chief, but the ranting of some nut job isn't a reason to back him. Now find something else to talk about." He knew he'd been rude. If they came after him, he would probably deserve the beating he got. But that was no reason to let them go on about some resurrected calm man. He glared out into the sun-scorched landscape. Well beyond his eyes' ability to focus, where the endless heat distorted the very air, the Iturian army formed a donut all around the city. In all, they figured 10,000 heretic warriors now ringed Brave Rock. Their allies were with them, several thousand goblins, kobolds, gremlins, goblins, pokes, and bogies. Dresden took the job of watching the length of the wall running west from the tower. The enemy had a habit of just appearing out of nowhere, making a few kills, and disappearing before anyone could respond. It was the same tactics the Kelds used against them. His attention was turned by another group of warriors coming up from below to share their rooftop view. 2 were human, 1 Tagara, and 1 a Minotaur. Every weapon they carried was finely crafted. 1 great axe, 1 tea. Dresden held his breath, realizing he was in the presence of clan elites. Just moments ago, he'd been screaming like a madman, yelling at his friends without a thought of restraint. What if they'd heard him? "Oh, ha, ha! They will break on this wall," The Minotaur Irving's tone was unmistakable. I hope so, High Warden. If we fall here, the Campbells will be hard-pressed to hold the gate. You will have failed Yalnia, and between us, all the gods. You must keep these bastards here while we gather strength. Dresden did not recognize the human's gentle tones. I agree with Irving on one note. That was the governess Eldrin. Dresden had seen her several times since arriving in the city, but not this close up. He did his best to shrink himself from view, but could not resist straining to hear every word. We will cripple that army, if it means our last breaths are given to do it. Ho, 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 you hear that? For a moment, Dresden thought Irving was talking to him. Instead, he took a step forward to the edge of the wall. You've all come to the end of your trail. Ha ha! Every one of you will die here. Strands of electricity sparked from the tips of the warrior's great axe and played about his horns. The Tagara moved forward, letting out a terrifying yowl. Dresden strained to see more clearly. It was Maxine. As he listened to her call, he felt emboldened and terrified at the same time. Could the enemy have anything so terrifying as these two? He moved into the open and began smashing his hammer on his shield. We are killed! We are killed! The famous warriors turned to go when they spotted the night watch, most of them still under the cover of the awning. Ho, ho, ho! These must be some of my warriors. Don't let the militia chase you out of your rooms without a fight. High Warden Irving laughed. The keep's in fine shape, infrastructurally speaking. Corporal Fairfax Kahn, sir. I've been commanding the overnight watch. This is Commander Dresden. He runs the next shift, early as usual. We have corporals? Irving sounded cheerful, almost like a child constantly discovering the world, but one that could fight an army of hulks as he did so. Fairfax explained. I hope to be a cavalry commander, sir. Militias of Jessa use the rank. I know this one. Maxine looked at Dresden. I recognize that eye from a briefing. Before KT, if I'm right. Yes, champion. Dresden nodded, glad he didn't have to explain everything. Most Tagara were tall to the dwarf, but Maxine, by virtue of her association with the Church of Agamar, was nearly 7 feet tall, looking down on every other Tagara he'd ever heard of. Use this one, Irving. Anyone that survived that battle with the sanity to stay in the fight is useful. The day was a rare one, where routine wasn't the rule. A few hours later, Liz made her way up. The rest of his friends joined them, 1 or 2 at a time. That much was normal. But before the watch was over, a squad of Irving's militia of Sorphus came up to look over the roof. They set out thick sheets on poles to protect more area from the sun. Initially, it seemed lazy to leave their posts early, but it didn't take long to see that they were just in the way. Liz got to her room in time to defend it by punching another Minotaur twice in the chest. He took it well, offering to share. I'll think about it, as her eyes evaluated him. Donald did lose his room, but came out ahead, being accepted into a larger group of Equirta. The species was suited to communal living, and Dresden didn't see him for the rest of the day while he made new friends. Dresden and Kira worked out a deal with a trio of gnomes to partition their room, still leaving the couple with more than enough space. The rest of the squad, Karen, Cormac, and Orn, managed to relocate to a second-floor room they could share. Irving appointed a new fort commander, and his executor found the trio first. After that, there was no question about the status of their group. They were a fighting group, under Dresden's command, with Liz listed as their sub-commander and Cormac as camp boss. In this case, a title without responsibility. They reassembled for the afternoon feast. Irving's militia was still arriving and would be for weeks. With the city enveloped, all 1,400 had to be pocket-spaced or flown in by hippogriff. The arrival of the militia of Omendon and their aerial cavalry was also welcome news, but it brought with it new problems. The beasts ate a lot. The house, is the foundation of our culture. The right culture. We who live the right way of life understand this because we are told in Jasmine's Book of Houses. What ties bind the houses? All answers can be found in faith. Samtha teaches us it is trade that forms the web of a greater society. Houses trade with houses, towns with towns, and clans with clans. The terms of this economy dictates our relationships, no matter the scale. Rivers, coastlines, roads leading from water to water, these are the connective tissues of the greater Keld Empire. We know those we trade with. We share a common interest, one faith, one goal, one future. When we war, we form squads from large houses or small towns. Those bands of warriors come together knowing they can trust their fellows because they have already bartered fair deals. After his sermon, the priest stepped down from the tall pulpit to mingle with the crowd. There was plenty more entertainment. Criers read out the great deeds of heroes and the bards told jokes, orated histories, or otherwise performed. Hey, Commander Useful, Karen teased. I guess it's not so bad considering who it came from. Kira had been extra affectionate all day. I think we can safely say we won't be overrun by the Iterians now, but we still can't take them head to head. If we just had a few trees for shade, this would be bearable. I'll even agree to that, Orrin said. I think Cormac left. He was pretty mad, moved in, but didn't unpack a thing. Cormac's a dolt, Karen told them. Liz grunted. It's not his fault. He really tried to be a good leader. He's just a dolt, Karen reaffirmed. Orrin let out a grunt. Ugh. It takes more than some ideas about strategy to lead a fighting group. You're right about that, Kira kissed Dresden on the cheek. Grumble all you want, my love. You've got it. Hey, baby, you want it. Yeah, baby, you've got it. Aren't they just the sweetest couple? What do you think? Should Karen be included in the mix? According to social media, plural relationships are a thing these days. They probably have been for a while. Just people have a way to brag about it now, and boy, sex sells. Truer and truer every day. Far be it from me to take advantage. Yeah, you caught me. I'm a child of the 70s and the 80s. A little romance, a little violence. It's a great combination for a winning format. Yeah, maybe some plot and some character development, but we're here for the action. No matter the reason you're here, I am glad you stopped by. This does bring us to the end of another episode, so it's time to do the stuff. Hit the like button. It's easy. Subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And leave a comment. I would love to chat with you, and it helps draw attention to the channel. All hail the algorithm. Check out my fiction on Amazon, and just so you know, I'm making more and more of my maps public on Incarnate. Thank you all so much for stopping by. As usual, that's the most important thing. So until next time, cheers.